feel anything. Maybe I just realized, baby, you're not the one. We're running out of time. I just wanna enjoy my life. I'm sorry, I'm done with you. I gotta run away. Don't wanna waste more time. I'm breaking up with you. You know what people say, if you love someone, just let them go. But I don't love you back. I'll let you go, go anyway. I can see it clearly now, baby, you're not the one. Our relationship just died. I am gonna enjoy my life. I'm sorry, I'm done with you. I gotta run away. Don't wanna waste more time. I'm breaking up with you. This is a breakup song. This is a breakup song. This is our breakup song. This is a breakup song. This is our breakup song. This is our breakup song.
Mi sentite? Buon pomeriggio a tutti, vi chiedo di sedervi perché cominciamo il panel. Ho detto. Potete sedervi per cortesia perché stiamo per iniziare, grazie. Non mi sentono? Allora cominciamo da qua, va bene. Ma posso cominciare? Ok.
Buon pomeriggio a tutti, vi chiedo la cortesia di accomodarvi che entro pochi minuti iniziamo. Gentilmente accomodatevi che entro pochi minuti iniziamo.
Vediamo. Allora cominciamo. Un po' di silenzio per cortesia. Niente. Buongiorno a tutti, welcome everybody, good afternoon. Can you hear me? There is a lot of noise, sorry. Can you sit please? Potete sedervi? Impossibile. Hello, good afternoon. Let's start this panel. We speak about development for future 10 years of the Italian Agency for Development Cooperation in a changing world. Per favore, silenzio. We will address this issue later in the discussion. Development cooperation is changing rapidly. Today, Europe is trying to redefine its role through new instruments like a global gateway, through national strategies such as Italy's Mattei Plan, and through a growing involvement of private investors. I'm talking here, I introduce myself. My name is Marilu Lucrezio. I'm a journalist for the Italian television, RAI, and I'm the correspondent from Brussels, so I cover foreign affairs, European affairs. So we will speak about some questions that remain still open. Can Europe really act as one player? Can development cooperation still be about solidarity, or it's now increasingly geopolitical? And who is going to fill the vacuum left by US aid that now is reduced and many programs are under pressure? We will discuss today, and I welcome to the stage Edmondo Cirielli, Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs and Development Cooperation. Please, Deputy Minister, welcome to the stage. Yes.
Good evening, esteemed directors, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased to open this session dedicated to the role of European cooperation agencies in promoting partnerships, investments, and sustainable development. This is a particularly meaningful occasion for Italy. This year marks the 10th anniversary of the Italian Agency for Development Cooperation. In this decade, Aics has played a decisive role as an essential member of the great family of Italian development cooperation, working to transform political priorities into concrete action on the ground. Today, however, we are not only celebrating an anniversary, we are also looking at the future of development cooperation. The world around us has changed deeply. Geopolitical tensions, food insecurity, economic fragility, and immigration pressures are reshaping the needs of our partner countries and the way we work with them. In this context, development cooperation is more important than ever. It is not a matter of charity, but about real development, creating opportunities and generating shared benefits for partner countries and for the whole Italian system. This is the spirit of the Italian approach to development cooperation, an inclusive and innovative approach based on dialogue among equals, concrete results, and mutual benefits. This new model has its clearest expression in the Mattei Plan for Africa, launched by Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, a model in which development assistance remains essential to strengthen institutional support basic services, build capacities, promote food security, education, health, and opportunities for young people. At the same time, public resources alone cannot respond to the scale of today's challenges. Therefore, we are at work to make public cooperation more effective and to mobilize new partnership and investment. In this vision, development agencies have a crucial role to play. Their technical expertise and field presence ensure that initiatives are effective and align with the priorities of partner countries and local communities. This is why we are committed to a stronger Aics, with a stronger presence abroad and with increased operational capacity. In line with our focus on Africa, we opened the office in Côte d'Ivoire and Uganda, as well as project offices in several African countries. On my initiatives, we are also establishing a fully fledged Aics office in Yerevan, covering Armenia, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan, new priority countries for Italian development cooperation. In this context, we believe that stronger coordination among leading European agencies is essential. Many of them already work with Aics on cooperation initiatives supported by the European Union. Italy is ready to contribute in this common effort with a clear vision, mobilize the whole Italian system while creating real opportunities for partner countries. In this perspective, the first 10 years of Aics are an important achievement, but also a starting point. Thank you very much for your attention and good work.
I thank you, Edmondo Cirielli, Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs and Development Cooperation. Thank you for your lesson, for your words. They are very interesting. And now, welcome to the stage to Marco Riccardo Rusconi, Director of Aics, Italian Agency for Development Cooperation.
Caro Vice Ministro, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, chers collègues, queridos colegas, cara colegas, sehr geehrter Kollege, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome you all to this panel dedicated to European cooperation agencies, partnership, investment, and sustainable development for the future, in the framework of this great edition of Coopera 2026, and on the occasion of the 10th anniversary of the Italian Agency for Development Cooperation. So a big thanks to the 700 women and men who work for the agency and have really done a great job. Grazie mille. Allow me to thank first Deputy Minister Cirielli for his remarks and for the strategic guidance that the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation provides to the Italian development cooperation system. I would also like to warmly thank Stefano Manservisi, whose experience and vision have accompanied many important phases in the evolution of European development policy, and to thank all the distinguished representatives of European cooperation agencies who are joining us today: AECID, Camoes, Enabel, Expertise France, JZ, and the Swiss SDC. Your presence here is not only a sign of institutional friendship, it is also a clear indication that in a rapidly changing world, development agencies need to work together, to think together, and to act together with greater effectiveness and adaptability. I'm also grateful to Marilu Lucrezio for moderating the discussion. The fact that this debate is taking place with the contribution of a journalist who closely follows European affairs and businesses is particularly meaningful. Today, development cooperation is not only a technical matter, it is also a public and communication challenge. We must be able to explain why cooperation matters, how it is evolving, and how it contributes to stability, to resilience, and to shared prosperity. This anniversary is an important moment for the agency. 10 years ago, the Italian Parliament created an agency with a clear mandate to strengthen the effectiveness of Italian development cooperation, to bring together technical expertise and operational experience, and to support the priorities of Italy's development cooperation in partner countries, delivering concrete and measurable results. Over these 10 years, Aics has consolidated its role as an operational platform for partnership. We work with institutions, with civil society organizations, with local authorities, with universities, with the private sector, with international organizations, with our European partners, and above all, with our partner countries. Our work is rooted in a simple but essential idea. Development cooperation is truly effective when it is not imposed from outside, but built through dialogue, mutual responsibility, and long-term commitment, working together and ensuring ownership at local level. Today, however, the context in which we operate is very different from the one in which many of our institutions were created. Geopolitical tensions are increasing, climate change is accelerating, fragility and conflict are putting pressure on communities and institutions. Technological transformation is reshaping economies, labor markets, and social relations. At the same time, public budgets are under pressure, and official development assistance is increasingly debated in many countries. We must reflect, from our point of view of technical actors, on how development cooperation can remain relevant, credible, and effective, while also becoming more agile, flexible, and capable of delivering results within the times that today's challenges require, without fear of innovating. You colleagues know well about my passion for cycling. These days, moreover, the Giro d'Italia is taking place. I've always been fascinated by the small breakaway group that attacks and moves ahead, especially at the point where the climb becomes steepest. We must be that group. In detail, I propose 3 musts. First, we must continue to preserve the value of public development action. There are sector, context, and needs that markets alone cannot reach, such as institutional capacity, basic services, fragile setting, social inclusion, and human development. In these areas, ODA continues to play an essential role, ensuring effectiveness and tangible impact on the ground. Second, we must continue to innovate. Public resources alone are not sufficient to meet today's development needs. We must therefore further strengthen our ability to mobilize additional resources involve the private sector, work with development financial institutions, and use instruments such as blended finance, guarantees, and de-risking mechanisms. Third, we must ensure that action remains clearly oriented towards development objectives. Investment is not a goal in itself. It becomes development when it creates local value, when it strengthens skills, when it generates decent employment, and responds to the priorities of partner countries with solutions that are adapted to local context and flexible enough to evolve over time. So who are we, the agencies? We are not only donors, we are not only implementers, we are connectors. Connectors between policy and practice, between public institutions and private sectors, between national and European priorities and partner countries' ownerships, between short-term responses and long-term transformation. This is also the spirit of Team Europe, of the Global Gateway, and for Italy of the Mattei Plan for Africa, bringing together different instruments, different actors, and different levels of engagement within a coherent operational framework. Thank you again for being here today in this great event, and I'm looking forward to our debate and discussion. Grazie.
Thank you, Marco. Riccardo Rusconi, Director of the Italian Agency for Development Cooperation. Thank you so much. And now, welcome to the stage Stefano Manservini, former DG at the European Commission, Chair of the Global Community Engagement and Resilience Fund. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Minister. My pleasure to be with you. Marco Rusconi, Director. Thank you very much. Dear friends and former colleagues, by the way, it's a real pleasure to be with you today. Thank you for the invitation. This, let's say, big room is creating a lot of positive energy. I was saying that if we put into a battery, this at least can be used to fuel a lot of activities altogether. I think is renewable, this energy. This is extremely important. Well, thank you, because it is also extremely important to reflect seriously and in an open way about what we mean by development cooperation. What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? And to avoid to fall into the trap of, let's say, short-termism or defensive position. I think, therefore, this is the real moment in which we have to discuss about this. Now, time is short, and by the way, many things have already been said, and my intervention would like just to try and contextualize and taking out of this contextualization maybe some indications for the sense of direction where we should go in order to partially reinvent development cooperation, international cooperation, partnership. I mean, language is very flexible, you know, but we understand what we mean, and how we can contribute to what should be a better world, which today is a big concept, which looks quite far away. So therefore, few indications. Now, starting point, as many said, is that we are living in a time of geopolitical tensions, of wars, weaponization of economic relations, crisis, deep crisis of multilateralism, and crisis of credibility of many international institutions, but crisis within our societies, where very often solidarity is presented a bit like a luxury, like something which, yes, when we'll be out of our crisis, we can maybe think about the others, but there is this tension which is also, let's say, very present. But it is true that our society are also caught across by new poverty, by new challenges. So therefore, this is a bit one element of today's situation. The second element, the obvious consequence, is that outside these rooms, development cooperation does not make headlines in newspaper. Let's say in this way, is not fashionable, is not the first instinct. Analysts, commentators, opinion makers are more inclined to look at how to fix a crisis, how to, let's say, intervene maybe militarily, how we can step up in order to create a European defense, which all this is absolutely clear. But, you know, we built Europe on other concepts, on other objectives. One of the founding principle of Europe is solidarity. Actually, leaving no one behind was already, in the sense, written in the European Treaty. So therefore, we have this sort of mismatch where development cooperation is very often sidelines by other priorities. And by consequence, ODA, for the second year consecutively, is falling down. It's clear that, United States bring the highest responsibility on this, but I think also as European we have decreased, with some exception, and I'm very happy to see that Italy is among these exceptions. But it is obvious that ODA is also not particularly fashionable. And by the way, all the language which is taking distance from donorship, grants, and inventing new way of saying very often the same things in a different way, partnerships, etc., is a reflection on this. And let's not repeat this kind of language, but the fact of the matter is this. And there is a narrative, and very happy that Marilou is here, because precisely to contribute to a counter-narrative, which is not just to defend a specific policy, but to put that at the center of the reflections which is necessary in order to address these challenges that we have all together. So the question of a narrative. This is the first point. These are the negative side. But there are also some, let's say, interesting elements. For example, whatever opinion polls from the Eurobarometer of a couple of years ago and whatever opinion poll of today are saying that European citizens are considering international cooperation and solidarity as one of the priority in order to bring peace, in order to build peace, in order to build shared prosperity, in order to be better equipped to deal with the challenges that we are sharing, from migration to climate change and many others. So people are not exactly in phase with what is the interpretation of this very difficult situation. And second, the issue of development, which is very often said, well, development is an old concept, it's something which is belonging to the past. In reality, not only our work on development suggests that the causes of underdevelopment, of the gaps, are increasing, but also the fact that this is not just a question for them, for the poor countries. It's a question for them and for us. It's not only a question which is very easy to understand, unfortunately, to keep education system up to the challenge, to keep health system up to the challenge of the pandemics that we have seen and we are seeing in this day. No, it's the question of the global transformation of the economy. And the global transformation of economy is creating gaps that if we don't address them today, will tomorrow, and already visible, increase the gap between North and South, between those which are in and those that are out. And this is not only an issue for them, it's an issue also for us. In particular, we Europeans, which are a bit lagging behind. What are the two leading, let's say, forces, which are United States on one side and China in the other. Therefore, in this context, the issue is in which place in the toolbox that, in particular, the European Union, let's say Italy as a key member, of course, but what is the place of development cooperation, of international cooperation in the toolbox which is necessary to address all these challenges? Is a position, let's say, of subordination, or is an issue of, or is a position of leadership? I think that in order to find, let's say, an answer to all this, it would be useful also to look back a bit to the past. The role that international cooperation and development cooperation has played in the last years. Let's see, for example, the famous MDGs, 8 MDGs, the moment in which, there was probably the highest point of consensus about what development was. But in reality, what was the MDGs? Was the response of decades of structural adjustment, of reduction of social expenditures, of, let's say, retreat of the state as provider of services. So it was the moment in which globalization was considered to open opportunity for everybody. And therefore, there was an optimism. And this optimism was turned into the first ever consensus around 8 objectives, the 8 MDGs. Saying this, if we fill this kind of gap, money, investing in social, putting social at the center, then there will be a possibility for everybody to take advantage of the new opportunity of globalization, because the opportunities are not there for everybody in automatic way. Therefore, MDGs were a big consensus about objectives, about means, about the role of development cooperation as filling this kind of gap in order to make something sustainable for everybody. Few years later, you know, the reality check was a bit bitter. You know, for example, it was seen that the objective to put every child at school, boys and girls, to end a complete cycle of primary education was accomplished. This MDGs was reached. But at the same time, we discovered also that once arrived to the end of this cycle, they didn't find any job. And therefore, back home, back in the green field, for girls in particular, back in house, in helping. So there was not the sustainability. In other terms, people working on the ground and people reflecting on how the economic transformations were impacting on this sort of global community immediately discovered that in reality, globalization was creating unsustainabilities because of climate change, because of inequalities, widening the gap, and because of the fact that in reality, it was not the problem of filling the gap through money. The problem was to change policies. The reason why SDGs, which were, you know, the consequence of this Agenda 2030, were for everybody. And for the first time, development discourse was not them and us. It was all together, because if we don't change policies, we can put a lot of money, but we will never reach a result to create a world which is more equal, where opportunities are for everybody, where it is more sustainable. You remember the pillar of Agenda 2030, people, peace, prosperity, planet. And these were objectives for everybody. Therefore, money, yes, but not only ODA. Increasingly, what? Mobilization of domestic resources, so talking about taxation. And second, private investment. At that moment, the scale of the challenge was suggesting to introduce in a big scale private investment as a resolution factor of this. And we started all the scheme that have been reminded here, the de-risking, the blending, etc. So it was a movement in which development cooperation and the development issue talk to everybody and say, look, hey, we cannot just we and us. We have to do reform altogether. ODA important, but it's not money only. Then another going down, COVID pandemic and the disruption created by the Building Back Better, where the gap amplified even more. Fiscal space was what the countries of the South were looking for. Not ODA. Investment, yes, but fiscal space in order to do what the north of the world was able to do. And they were not able to do because international financial institutions were not programmed for that. IMF was a failure on this. World Bank, yes, indeed, made something, but the scale of the problem was too big. And therefore, at that moment, you know, people said, look, why we have to talk about cooperation? We have to change the rules. We have to change the mechanism. We have to change the way in which the world decides about this. But there was an impasse, obviously. Then today, very briefly, obviously, today, the mess in which we are, full disruption, no rules, international system largely broken, confidence largely broken, you know, and a sort of dynamic between the north and the south of the world, which can turn very, very sour, can turn into something which, instead of creating more opportunities, creating more friction. I mean, United States and China are on the market of influence, let's be clear. Where Europe is in all this. I think that this is the key point of today on which I would suggest you to have a look at. Because today Europe is talking about strategic autonomy, defining an interest between the two big blocs. Strategic autonomy as a way to stand with our model, to have the chance to compete, but also not to lose our characteristic. Now, in this, development cooperation, international cooperation, which kind of role? We change the language, investment, global gateway, Mattei Plan. We change the language, international partnership. Yes, indeed, but at the end of the day, if we are not, let's say, investing a bit more, even intellectually, it risks to be a better partner, a better donor, while today it's not the issue to be a better partner. I mean, the issue is, in my view, to build a system in which we can decide together with the Global South. This is the real challenge. Our allies are in the Global South because they are exactly in our same situation, with the risk to be crushed in the middle by the United States and China, in an international system where rules are violated every day, where strength is the only measurement of success, where in reality everybody is feeling uncomfortable in all this. What the European Union could look at, in my view, could look at to turn the partnerships into alliances, to turn, let's say, what Europe can do not alone as a strategic autonomy outside the partnership, but rather to build what I would suggest to call cooperative autonomy, and to set up rules, financial means, standard, and even metrics with the Global South. We have to change totally the paradigm. GDP is not the only one. Risk assessment is not the only one. We can do things together which a strong alliance between the European Union on one side and the Global South on the other can help in creating a new paradigm for development cooperation and for international cooperation. I conclude saying that there is a clear hook on this. I would say development cooperation and international partnership or alliances should play an important role in the implementation of what are the Draghi Plan and the Letta Plan. We should not believe that we will be able to regain competitiveness against the Global South. We cannot believe that we can create supply chains which are trustable against or just exploiting the Global South. We have to build them together. We can do it together in agriculture, in agri-food, in raw material, in the industry. In other terms, our success is a bit, and largely, I believe, conditioned for our partnership with the South. In this, development cooperation, international cooperation plays an extraordinary role because it is the one saying, hi, this is not just our agenda. It's an agenda of transformation, of sustainability of the whole world. We can do it together if we change the way of working, if we decide together, if we set rules together, even if we do some form of test of multilateralism together. I think on this, there is a role which is leading of the development cooperation, because precisely it is the one that on the ground is seeing what it means every day. And if I may say, the practice of the Team Europe, which is extremely important, is a bit also a contribution to what Mario Draghi is calling pragmatic federalism, where we put together people which are driven by the same objective, setting up in partnership with our friends in the South, inventing new common platform, deciding together and showing to the rest of the world that this is the way to follow. On this, I think development cooperation has a leading role, and the agencies should invent plenty of new formula in order to put that in practice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stefano Manservini, former DG DevCo at the European Commission. Thank you for your keynote. It was really interesting. Chair of Global Community Engagement and Resilience Fund. Thank you. It was really interesting. And now I invite the panelists to the stage. Please come and welcome Anton Leis Garcia, Florella Paraiba, Jean Van Vettel, Jeremy Pellet, Marco Riccardo Rusconi, Ina Hommers, Dominique Stillart. Welcome back. You can sit wherever you like. So we are not having so much time, but I ask you to be very brief. Let's start with Spain. Anton Leis Garcia, AIC, the Spanish Agency for International Development Cooperation. You are the CEO. Spain has been increasing the development budget in the recent years, reaching around 2 billion euro, positioning itself as a growing European player in development cooperation. But my Question is, how did Spain cooperation change its approach with regard to the private sector engagement? Thank you.
This one? Yes. Okay. First of all, thank you, Marco, for inviting us. We talk a lot about cooperation, but let's recognize it. There is some competition among us. Nobody can compete with Italians when it comes to venues. It's good to have to be in this wonderful city. Any excuse to come to Rome is of course very important. I think Stefano Manservisi was alluding to this. We live in a world where some are trying to impose the rule of force. I think Europe, the European agencies, Spain, we are all too small. And as Mark Carney has said in this infamous speech in Davos, if you are not around the table, you are on the menu. I think part of what we are trying to do is, of course, to be influential in the world. Like, there is solidarity that has inspired our work. It continues to do so. It is in the core of the Treaty of the European Union, but there is, of course, interests that also motivate what we do. Spain is only 14 kilometers away from Africa. Italy, I think, is 40 kilometers from Pantelleria. I was in Tunis last week, and you can almost see Italy. I think what some countries in the European Union that are either maintaining or increasing its development cooperation are saying is that this is part of an investment in security, in prosperity for both sides of the Mediterranean and for the world as a whole. In Spain, we are growing. Last year, for 13%, we increased our ODA. We wish that's more, but this is, we are inching towards our objectives. But we are trying to do better. And let's face it, the annual gap of the SDGs is way too big, even with the amount of ODA that we have, which is less than 5% of the total. We need to leverage, we need scale, and that means bringing with us the private sector. And I very much like what Marco said before. Our development agencies need to be donors, and yes, we manage funds, but we need to be connectors. We need to bring with us what our countries has to offer. Of course, the solidarity of our people, and this is still very important. We are never going to defend this public policy if it is not on our values as Italians, as Spanish, as Europeans that are very much present. But we need to do better, and we need to bring other actors. We need to bring science, we need to bring universities, we need to bring also the private sector, not just for the money. And about 50% of, in AECID we are not a bank, but we manage a financial facility on behalf of the government. 50% of what we do is with the private sector and bringing the financial sector in particular in the area of impact investment. And with other, and the GDP was part of this effort. We have been, for instance, promoting a Team Europe initiative on creating the demand for green bonds, essentially giving our partner countries the agency to invest in a just ecological transition. So we need to do more, we need to do better, and we are only going to be able to do this with the private sector. We have reformed our agency, in part, to be a better connector with private sector entities.
Thank you, Anton Leis Garcia, Spanish Agency for the International Development Cooperation, the CEO. Now I will talk to Florbela Paraíba, CEO of Camões, Portuguese Agency for Development Cooperation, Portugal. So, in your experience, what works best to attract private capital in Lusophone countries? Strong public guarantees, local partners, or long-term programs?
Auguri a Aics, sono molto contenta di essere qui, grazie mille. So for Portugal, we have a cooperation that is a state policy, so it's deeply rooted in our own foreign policy, and it's, in a way, it's organized and focused on 6 countries, which are the countries in Africa and Timor-Leste that speak Portuguese as an official language. And so these are historic, linguistic, cultural ties, and these are lasting partnerships. And the agency, what we try to do is to be catalytic of private investors. So create the trust, create the credibility, and the knowledge, the deep knowledge of the contexts. And of course, align ourselves with the national priorities of these governments. And we know that development cooperation is not linear. So it's not going, I mean, these countries will have, as our own countries, difficulties, external shocks, pressures. So we have to create the conditions in terms of supporting the skills and the competencies of the people, investing in people. We are very much focused in education and health, for instance, but also in justice, in the rule of law, in the promotion of democratic governance. Create the conditions so that the environment is attractive to private investors. And that is something that I think that we are not replaceable by private investors. They will come, they are absolutely fundamental, and we count on them, and we count on the mobilization of the domestic resources also. But we act in areas and where, well, when many others will not be able to be present. So there is this role for the agencies, I think, in the creation of institutions that are strong, in the promotion of policies that are sustainable. We all work together, and we work with projects, but we also work in building, with the building blocks, building lasting policies and regulatory frameworks that allow the private investors, the philanthropy and the trusts to come and also be partners with these countries, these partners. So I think that our role is also creating these bridges with, as it was already said here, with the global south. We act as bridges between Africa and Latin America, for instance, and Europe, of course. We all work together in different projects around the world. But we also act as build bridges between private and public sector in Portugal and in the countries. And that is very, very important, the role that the agencies have promoting this dialogue between the local actors, the private and public actors in the case of Portugal, especially in Angola, Mozambique, Cape Verde, São Tomé e Príncipe, Guinea-Bissau and Timor-Leste. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
It was really interesting and clear. Thank you, Florella Paraíba, Camões, Portuguese Agency for Development and Cooperation. Now we speak with the Belgian Agency for Development Cooperation, the CEO, Jean van Vettel, Enabel. So, where do you see Europe really working as Team Europe and not as many separate projects? And do you think which really scares the private investors? Which is the main risk? What do you think?
Okay. But first of all, thank you very much for this invitation, and congratulations to the Italian agency for the 10 years. And thank you for me to see so many people in this room. And I heard that there is more than 5,000 participants. It gives a lot of hope that there is still interest for international cooperation among the general public. And as it was said before, I think this is the most important, is public support. Without public support in our constituencies, I think we will not succeed. So it gives me a lot of energy to be in this magnificent room with so many people. I feel a bit like in Eurovision. Huh? It's like generally we make Belgium one part, but today I hope it's more. But it's also, Marco, a big success that you managed to put us together. And I think it replies to your question, why do we work together as Europeans? I think Africa will be 4 billion people. Europe will shrink from 450 to 300 million inhabitants. We can no longer see the partnership between Europe and the rest of the world as a country to the rest of the world. We need to think European. And I think there is a big recognition among us, even from bigger countries like Spain or France or Italy. Belgium, it's easier, we are smaller. But we need Europe, and I think, of course, we are stronger together. And it's not just a slogan. we see, I think if you look our agencies here together, also with the Swiss here, sorry, we all have projects in common. We all have joint implementation, and sometimes, yeah, it can be seen as competition, but at the end of the day, it's cooperation. And I like to say that European agencies working together is not only the cooperation vis-à-vis the rest of the world, but it's also building the European Union together in our engagement with the rest of the world. So we are also reinforcing the European project, and that should not be forgiven, because sometimes we think about outside Europe, but we collectively reinforce Europe. On private sector, there are many risks, but I think the biggest mistake is to think that the private sector needs us. I think we need more the private sector than the private sector needs us. Why do I say that? If you ask a government in a part of the country, let's say Benin yesterday had a new president. If you ask the president of Benin, what do you need from Europe? He will say, of course, I would like your ecosystem, your expertise, your regulatory framework, your regional integration system. But I also want your private sector investment. I don't only want Chinese investment, I want European. Why? Because we feel close to your values, but we also like your regulatory environment, the fact that your companies respect our laws and can also have an inclusive development impact. We want the same as you have in Europe. So we want you, in a way, as agencies, to bring this private sector with you. And I like the word of Marco saying we are connector, facilitator. Me, I will use enabler, enable. We are enabling an ecosystem to come together. And I know there are many NGOs here in the room. We also bring NGOs. In our model, Enable, I like to say that we are a triangle, government, NGOs, and private sector. And in a way, we try that the three angles of the triangles have the same amplitude, making sure that no one is dominating. And I think if you reach the right balance between the three corners of the triangle, that's where you have sustainable development. And for me, that is the future. And indeed, there is a risk with Global Gateway that it goes too much on one side. It's like a pendulum. And we are here as agencies to balance this pendulum and making sure that no one is dominating the other. If we succeed, I can tell you that European international partnership agenda will be the one that will make the difference in the future. We should not compete with China. We should not compete with the US. We should come with our own approach. But for that, and the last word before I give the floor to my colleagues, we need more money. I'm against the idea of we can do more with less. I think Europe is making a mistake by decreasing its international cooperation budget, especially vis-à-vis defense. We need also a balance between the two. And on that, I want to congratulate Italy, which is one of the only countries in Europe to increase its international cooperation budget. So thank you, Italy, and well done for this conference.
Thank you, Jan van Vettel, Enabel, Belgian Agency for Development Cooperation, the CEO. Yes, I agree, because the government, NGO, and private sector, they must be able to work together. No one is more than the other, but it's a triangle. And you're right. So I asked to France if it's the same concept, Jeremy Pellet expertise, French Agency for Development Cooperation, the CEO, because France, this 23 billion French plan for Africa can be seen either as a real game changer, right?
Well, first of all, grazie per l'invito, caro Marco, e buon compleanno, Aics. Aics, sorry. No, 10 years, it's impressive what Aics has been done in the last 10 years, the way you've been able to structure from an operational point of view the agency and structure a clear identity for the Italian cooperation, and I think it's a privilege to be here today. We celebrated our 10 years anniversary last year, and I think the interesting thing when you look back 10 years ago is where we were. We were at a time where we saw the birth of the Sustainable Development Goals. We saw a consensus on climate with the Paris Agreement on climate, and we saw the Addis Ababa consensus for the financing of development. And Stefano had clearly shown earlier that those three pillars are shaking today. But that doesn't mean that even with the difficulties we face today at global level, we should forget the importance of international cooperation. And the only silver lining that we have today is that Europe is certainly the place where you have this strategic thinking and dialogue on international cooperation today. And that's, that's particularly true for countries like Italy, where you had this consistent view for the last 2 years on what to do in Africa, how to support Africa, not only for business-oriented purpose, but also for the future of our continent in Europe. And that's the same direction that has been taken by France. You were mentioning the announcement a couple of weeks ago made in Nairobi, and I think the idea is the same. The idea is to mobilize resources together, public and private resources, on a more partnership level to make sure that we are able to structure a common future with Africa and with the rest of the world. And I think we have all the instruments in Europe. Technical cooperation agencies, we have public development banks, strong public development banks, like in Italy with the CDP. We also have private sector, important private sector, and we are able to make the link, the connection, as Jean said earlier, between all those instruments to fight against fragmentation and to be able to reinvent this international cooperation, which, by the way, has never been so needed than today. So I think even with the complicated situation, we have all the instruments. We are able to continue in this Team Europe spirit. And I'm confident that with the new budget cycle in Europe, and for our European Cooperation Agency, with the new presidency of our association with GIZ and Aics, we will be able to deliver and to continue the very strong cooperation that we have been structuring for the last 10 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeremy Pellet, Expertise France, CEO, French Agency for Development Cooperation. Now I address to Riccardo Rusconi, Italian Agency for Development Cooperation, Director. And I would like to talk about the Mattei Plan. It's the new strategic framework for cooperation with Africa, focusing on sectors like energy, agriculture, education. From your point of view, what is really new compared to Italy's past cooperation?
Thank you very much. I will be short because I don't want to take the time to my colleagues here. I see that time is running fast. A few words on Mattei Plan, which is an operation which is larger than the simple development cooperation system. And this is why, it's the Office of Prime Minister who is in charge, in fact, of the leadership of the Mattei Plan. I can see a number of positive aspects in this big effort. The first thing is the strong political commitment. When you have commitment, strong political commitment behind you, also at technical level, you can do many things that otherwise it would be a little bit difficult to do. We are expanding our network of offices abroad and branch offices. The Vice Minister, Deputy Minister mentioned it today. This is a consequence of the Mattei Plan. Another thing is that it has forced us Italians, which usually are not very much accustomed to work all together, we are a little bit anarchists, no? So each one going his way, to work together. And to work together at level of institutions. So there was a time when the people of the Ministry of Affairs, they visited the country, then on the airport they met people of the Ministry of Environment where are you going? I mean, I just coming back to a country, but I was not aware that you were operating there. So not only institutions, but also regions and municipalities. I mean, we are a country where regions and municipalities have some autonomous powers, and some of them are very active in development cooperation. So also associate them and working with them in a more coordinated way is a good achievement on Mattei Plan. Then the academia, university, again, to insert, to make more coherent also some direction of the development cooperation together with knowledge partners, which are basically embedded in universities. And then, of course, NGOs, civil society organizations, and private sectors. So a plastical example of what Mattei Plan has done, and we have also described it to the OECD. We have undergone an important peer review from OECD, so also from our colleagues. I mean, those German colleagues scrutinizing. I mean, what we do is that we organize under the leadership of Minister of Foreign Affairs some mission, systemic mission, where, we've joined a number of 70 people, but there is, of course, the people from the Minister of Affairs, myself, our DFI, Cassa Depositi Prestiti, but then we are in a group of people, including also NGOs coming from the headquarters, because we meet, of course, local NGOs and local representative of NGOs, but we come also with people from the headquarters. Same applies also to universities, same applies also to municipalities. So, and I will stop here. The fundamental added value of the Mattei Plan is that coordination and synergies, and also avoiding also doing harm, no? Which is the basic principle of people who do development cooperation, do not harm. Sometimes, even in positive actions, if they're not coordinated, the result is not positive. So really, that has been a great lesson for us, and we put, this example also at disposal of our friends and other agencies. I have to say that we have also organized, not together with the presidency, because we have a small organization whose name is Practitioner Networks, and the two co-chairs, the two co-presidents organized a field visit last year to which we participated massively. So also going together from the capitals on the spot and preserving the principle of field, because we are field-based organization. So this, for sure, is a good achievement of Mattei Plan.
Thank you very much. Marco Riccardo Rusconi, the Mattei Plan is going very well, and now I address to Germany, Ina Hommers, GIS, Director General for Client Liaison and Business Development. Germany is among the top of the donors globally and key player in global gateway. So with so much public money on the table, what is your main priority? Climate, energy, migration, or something else? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And to say from a Berlin perspective, we all put in Eurovision points here, and I think all of your capitals are much more beautiful than Berlin, but my 12 points definitely go to Roma. So congratulations to Aics also for this beautiful conference and for this beautiful location. It's great. And it's really difficult for me to say something after Stefano Manservisi, because we already heard that the question about the Sustainable Development Goals is leaving no one behind. And the question now is, how do we ensure that there is enough investment in order not to leave anyone behind? Now, from a German perspective, it's very clear why we are still believing and financing into official development assistance. We are coming from 0.8 of our GDP on official development assistance. We have reduced, but we are still the largest bilateral donor, and GIZ is the largest European implementer, because when Germany came up after the Second World War, no one left Germany behind. And if you imagine a Europe nowadays where Germany would have been left behind, if you imagine if this would be a stable European Union, if we would be able to have free trade in Europe, if we would be able to live prosperous and have prospects for young people who are growing up in Europe, we would not, if you, as the ones sitting here on this table, would have left Germany behind at the time. Was it a question of finance? No, it was not. It was not a question of funding, it was a question of believing in trust and solidarity. It was a question, and this is where the question, is it geopolitical, or is it values, or is it interest-driven? We believe in the history that we have come from. It's a mixture. It's a mixture of European interests. It's France not wanting to have a very chaotic Germany next door, rightfully so. And it's a number of other factors that then led to a combination that now means economic growth for all of us. It's the most prosperous region globally. And if we are able to transfer this to other continents, then I do believe that we have all instruments in order to put this together. And it is, yes, it is the banks that will provide the funds. It's private sector that we have to bring in. But as technical agencies, we are the ones who interconnect, as Marco earlier said, who interconnect to the ground, who have field operations, and who are able to drive forward those trustful relationships that are needed in order to create wealth in the regions. And we are the ones that can help to bring the conditions for sustainable investment. You cannot just put money into places that come from war, and this is not what raised Germany. You have to build trusted relationships. You have to be on ground. You have to help bring up capacities, and you have to prepare the grounds for sustainable investment from private sector and from banks. So we are looking forward to our joint co-presidency with Italy in order to drive this across Europe and even stronger globally. And thank you for having us.
Thank you. In commerce, as you said, it's important to have to trust for the private sector. Trust is very important. And going to Switzerland, to Dominique Stillhart, SDC, Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, Ambassador, Deputy Director. Switzerland is known for its financial sector. How do you try to connect Swiss investors and impact finance with your cooperation project on the ground? And as she said, trust is really important as a main player.
Thank you, Marilu, and thank you, Italy, for inviting Switzerland. And congratulations, happy anniversary to the Italian Agency for Development Cooperation. If you allow, I would like to come at this question from a humanitarian perspective, because I'm the humanitarian director of the Swiss Development Cooperation, and that is the perspective that I would like to apply to your question. We all know that, like the entire ODA, international cooperation, also in the humanitarian sector, money is shrinking whilst needs continue to grow. So this idea of every year having more money to cover more needs is simply not possible anymore, and we need to think differently. And one of the pathways to think differently and to have better impact, especially in these protracted conflict situations, is indeed closer cooperation with the private sector, but not for the private sector to just fund humanitarian assistance or international cooperation, but to mobilize investment, innovation, and expertise. And there are actually three very good news in that respect. First, in my 35 years working in conflict situations, I have never, ever met a beneficiary of humanitarian aid who is happy to be a beneficiary of humanitarian aid. They all want to get out of humanitarian aid, work, and provide for their families. Second, even in the most acute conflict situations, the local business, the local economy is always there and it is working. When I arrived in Somalia 35 years ago at the height of the famine, the Somali private sector were able to deliver food cheaper, faster, and better adapted to local consumption patterns than any sort of UN pipeline that was built at the time. And third, there are now close to 800 private impact funds that are focused on emerging markets that are representing close to 100 billion US dollars in assets under management. The question is, how do we leverage this money, especially in the most fragile context? And this is where we need to shift our mindset. We need to shift the way we think about risks. And there are really three things that we are trying to do at the Swiss Development Corporation. First, supporting local private sector systematically and seeing people not as beneficiaries but as economic actors. And I was recently in Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya, one of the oldest refugee camps in the world, where we've invested in local entrepreneurship, and the results are actually amazing. There are amazing results of refugees having become entrepreneurs and really changing life in that refugee camp. Second, we need to use our funds, government funds, to systematically de-risk private investments. And one example that we are supporting at the Swiss Development Corporation is the Water Access Acceleration Fund, which is an innovative blended financing initiative that is aimed at offering affordable drinking water to 60 million people in Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. And what we are doing, we have put around 5 million euros to absorb exchange rate risks so that private investment can actually go into this fund. And last but not least, we need to work together in partnership. This is between donors, philanthropy, development finance institution, multilateral banks, and private investing. It's absolutely important, given the fact that there is less money, that there is better cooperation between all these different actors. And to conclude, I was just 2 weeks ago, I was in Afghanistan, where we are supporting a project that is run by UN Women for women entrepreneurs. And what that project is doing, it is helping these women entrepreneurs to go digital, to put their business on digital platforms to expand their markets beyond Afghanistan. And I spoke to several of those women, and I asked one of them, so what has changed in your life? And she said, look, first of all, I expanded my market. I can now sell my products abroad, and that makes me very proud. But most importantly, what this project did to me, it gave me dignity and freedom. Dignity and freedom. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dominique Stillard, Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, Ambassador, Deputy Director. Now, I'd like to listen to Francisco Tierraseca, President of FIAP Spain. If you can just explain to us your point of view about FIAP, and we will be very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. A brief message of FIAP, the Spanish cooperation. First, congratulations to Aics on 10 years of cooperation. You are a partner of choice, a solid and value friend, but we work together on many cooperation projects as part of Team Europe, together with other organizations also present here today. In the current context of geopolitical partnerships, investment and global gateway, working together is more important than ever. We need to cooperate horizontally among European actors, but also with partner countries. That same spirit of partnership and mutual understanding is essential to identify shared objectives, find a real field of opportunity and achieve greater impact, while building shared response to common threats in a rules-based international order. Investment is crucial, and private sector involvement in international partnerships is key, but assure that sustainability and development impact for the people and planet remains at the center. Our added value lies not only in what we finance, but in how we work. Through real partnerships, shared priorities, and long-term development impact. Congratulations again, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Francisco Tierraseca, President of FIAP Spain. And I will close this debate saying that today's discussion showed that development cooperation is no longer only about aid. It is a lot about strategy, investment, partnership, geopolitical influence. The real challenge for Europe now is whether it can move from many national approaches to a truly common vision. Adesso comincerà all'auditorium a 3 minuti da qui a piedi il panel inaugurale con il Ministro degli Affari Esteri italiani, la grande famiglia della cooperazione italiana allo sviluppo, fare squadra insieme, e se siete interessati potete già cominciare ad andare lì, sono 3 minuti a piedi all'auditorium della conciliazione. Grazie a tutti. Scusa, la foto di gruppo?